Hi, this is Elizabeth, one of the co-hosts of Beauties and Headcanons. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Kim Meyer, the host of Choose to Rise here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Choose to Rise, where we talk about living with positive mindsets, how to increase our confidence, building our faith, and living out our life on purpose. A new show comes out via podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if you want to catch the episode live instead, stop by Public House Media around 6:45 Central Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Choose to Rise. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Throughout history, the course of sports has been shaped by one thing: the fans.
From the moments you never dreamed of,
Abby Wambach has saved the USA's life in this World Cup! Hall, the runner! Loose ball! It's good! Gonzaga! The flipper still fits!
To the moments that still give you nightmares.
Behind the bag! It gets through Buckner! Here comes Knight and the Mets win it! He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl! Brady has his fifth!
through the good and the bad, fans have helped change the games we watch and the players we love.
They may not be the most logical people.
You are a factory of sadness! I'll see you Sunday.
But they know their teams better than anybody.
They'll blow in the ninth.
You may not always see them, but you know where to find them.
After all, there's nothing quite like the view from the cheap seats.
Broadcasting as part of the Public House Media Network.
Grab a chair and enjoy all there is in
The cheap seats.
Happy Friday morning. Welcome to the Friday version of the Cheap Seats. I'm your host, Matt Coyne. This is kind of a bittersweet morning for me. This morning I am joined along with my new fellow host, Jake Holmes. Good morning, Jake. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing fine. So if you're wondering why it's, bittersweet, is because the bitter part of it is Baxter Colburn is no longer on the Friday show, but the sweet part is I am joined by a very good friend of mine, Jake Holmes, who's been on the show a few times with us. So, Jake, again, welcome to the Cheap Seats. I'm glad that you're part of it. And just how about you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know listeners know about you, but just a little bit more about who they'll be hearing from on Friday mornings.
Sure, of course. And again, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, currently cover the Pittsburgh Penguins with Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Been on the show talking about professional hockey a few times. I have 4 years of broadcasting experience with both high school and collegiate athletics in the Pittsburgh area. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. That's pretty much the only exciting things about me, I guess.
Cool. Well, so we're going to, I think we have a fun morning planned, but as we always do, we're going to get started with some quick headlines. Jake, did you see the other day that big man Bartolo Colon gets a 101 mile per hour fastball right back into his stomach? And he was quoted afterwards saying, "It's cool, pretty much my fat stomach just took it all in." So did you see that? Did you, the ball coming right back at him?
Yeah, big man's got a little extra insulation, so he's probably right. It probably didn't hurt too bad, but yeah, I mean, bless his heart, man. Taking one for the team right up the middle. He's actually had a really good year. What is he, 44? He was flirting with a no-hitter about 2 Sundays ago against the Houston Astros. So he's having a really good year, and the big man, he just keeps rolling, man.
Yeah, I've always said the start or any pitching position in the MLB is awesome. Like, you just do not have to worry about being in shape. You don't have to worry about you literally can just. I mean, I just imagine him sitting on his couch during the week. He's like, I gotta go pitch this week, I guess. So, but I mean, he got a 2.82 ERA, 2-1, 32 strikeouts this year with a WHIP under 80 or under 1. So, it's he's impressive. So
yeah, definitely having a good year. And the Texas Rangers, they're a decently surprising story. I mean, I think all of us assumed that the Astros would run away with it. I mean, they're 10 games under, but still having an okay year. I mean, a little bit better than I had expected, at least.
Yeah. So moving over to basketball. So for our listeners who listen to Baxter and I on a regular basis, I'm sorry, but you're not getting another basketball genius here with Jake. But we do want to touch on the NBA playoffs, and Boston is kind of dominating their series right now, and Houston and Golden State. Houston just destroyed Golden State on Wednesday night. So, Jake, we got, it looks like, the West is shaping up to be pretty close here. Boston and Cleveland. Cleveland has some work to do, but like we always say, but they have LeBron James. So.
Exactly. And I mean, I think that everybody kind of assumes that this Rockets Warriors Western Conference final is the final,
Yeah.
Two best teams in the NBA all year. So, but last night, what was it, Wednesday night, PJ Tucker outscored Steph Curry. That's never a good thing whenever Steph Curry gets outscored by nothing more than a role player. All due respect to PJ Tucker, of course. But yeah, like you said, absolute destruction. But they're going back to Oracle. It's the toughest place to play in basketball.
Yeah. So that game is Sunday night at 8:00, and then Cleveland Boston, they play Saturday night at 8:30. So two series I still expect to go 7 games, but it looks like Boston is controlling Cleveland pretty well. And as you said, Golden State losing by 20 the other night is not a good. I'm sure it does not leave a good taste in their mouth going back home, like you said, which is a good thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, really, this Golden State team. I mean, they can come at you at so many different angles. I mean, they can beat you defensively. I mean, they have one of the best defensive basketball players in the world in Draymond Green. But then they can outscore you. I mean, they can put up 130 a night. It's just amazing what they have the ability to do.
Yes.
And I think Houston, with that isolation game, I think that they're going to really, really struggle over the next 2 back in Oakland.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, those are a few of our quick headlines. When we come back, Jake and I are going to talk a little bit about the NHL Conference Finals. We've been joking that Friday is going to turn into Pittsburgh talk, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen with the Penguins on it. And so, when we come back here to the Cheap Seats, we will be talking about the NHL Conference Finals. Welcome back to the Cheap Seats. Again, my name is Matt Coyne, joined along with Jake Holmes here. Jake, so we're going to just get right into it here with some NHL talk. Obviously, me and you are still mourning the elimination of the Pittsburgh Penguins, but you know what? I've been telling people that they won 2 years in a row. They deserved an off year. I hate that it was the Capitals, and I hate that Kuznetsov was the one who had this. I cannot stand that flying, screaming eagle, whatever they call that thing. But our listeners have heard me complain about that stupid celebration enough. So let's just get into it. Jake, if you're obviously the hockey guru here, so if you want to just go in and start talking about about Tampa Bay and Washington and Winnipeg and Vegas.
Well, Tampa Bay, Washington, that Eastern Conference final, I felt coming in that nobody was giving Washington the respect they deserved against Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay has been a great team all year, finished the regular season with 113 points. They can come at you with 4 lines. They have 4 elite defensemen. But there's just something about that Washington Capitals team right now. I mean, they're getting production from all four lines as well. The defense is activated. I had Tampa Bay in 6. I still think Tampa Bay is going to end up winning. I think it's going to take a little bit longer than 6. It's going to have to go 7. But just the way that Braden Holtby played in those first 2 games, and just the depth of the Washington Capitals, it's just completely different. And they got to this point without Andre Burakovsky, one of their top probably 6 forwards. It's amazing what they've done. And getting Tom Wilson back really helped the penalty kill and defensive efforts over the first 2 games of that series. Of course, Game 3 was a little bit different story. Tampa Bay came out and looked like Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
but
I
think
that's. Oh, good. I'm sorry.
No, it's an interesting series because I mean it brings you back to the days of the old Southeastern Conference when they were playing against the Atlanta Thrashers and everything, and the born again Atlanta Thrashers are still playing out west.
Yeah, it's funny because I agree. People were just kind of writing the Capitals off. I was looking on Facebook and people were saying, "Well, good luck Capitals with the Lightning," and I went, "Wait, what are you talking about?" I mean, I think what a lot of people they saw the Capitals come up against the Penguins and they're like, "Well, this is year 3 and they're just known they can't get past the second round." And I kept telling people, hey, if Capitals get past the second round, you got to watch out for them. I technically put them in as one of the as a favorite. I mean, now I picked Tampa Bay in 7, but I would not. Obviously, I picked 7, so I would not be surprised if the Capitals pull this series off.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. And I'll tell you, too, I mean, the thing about the matchup with the Pittsburgh Penguins is that this is, again, like you said, this is the 3rd year in a row.
Yeah.
You have a good team. I mean, Alexander Ovechkin, nobody can convince me otherwise. He's the best goal scorer of this generation, hands down. Nobody's even close to him.
Yeah.
But you have that core. Even with like TJ Oshie and Nicky Backstrom, who's obviously hurt right now, but Evgeny Kuznetsov. Supplement that with a really good coach in Barry Trotz, whether you like him or not. That's a team that is, if they lose 3 years in a row, yikes. You know what I mean? It's. I'm not surprised that they beat the Penguins at all. The Penguins came in limping in, and really they were only getting scoring from 2 players, Sidney Crosby and Jake Gensel, who still lead the Stanley Cup playoffs in points scored.
Yeah, and that was my big concern when they went into the Penn series. So many. I know history. People like to go history. I say, listen. I've always said history is not a stat. I understand their stats, but it doesn't matter when it comes to that year. And I had a bad feeling about it. And like I said, I was cool if the Penguins lost this year, but please do not let it be against Washington. And it was. But then we were talking on the show last week, Jake. I said, it actually made me feel better when I was seeing the Washington Capitals reaction, the fans, their reaction. They were acting like they won the Stanley Cup. But, I think they have a great shot. But there are 2 teams waiting in the West with Winnipeg and Vegas that I think, in my opinion, Jake, I don't know what you think, but I think both of these teams, whoever prevails from the West is going to be the favorite going in the Stanley Cup Finals.
I couldn't agree more, Matt. I really couldn't. Because you look at Winnipeg, first and foremost, I'll preface this. Who would have thought in October of 2017 that the Western Conference Finals would be the Winnipeg Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights?
I'm joking.
I know that I did. Of course I did. But Winnipeg, they can come at you so many different ways. Again, they've got a really hot goaltender, a young goaltender, Connor Hellebuck. I had Winnipeg going to the Stanley Cup Final at the beginning of the playoffs, just because they can run. They have. Their 3-center model is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Stasny, Scheifele, Adam Lowry. It's unlike any other in the league because they can come at you with both speed and grit. Now right now, obviously they're down 2-1 in the series, with game 4 coming up on Friday evening. But yeah, I mean Winnipeg, man, they are so good, and they have the next Alexander Ovechkin and Patrick Laine.
Yeah. It's. This series, I was very interested. This is one that I couldn't pick. I mean, I had to go Vegas in 7. I love this story. I love, obviously, well, we need to get a Yinzer button or something on for the Friday show. Baxter was always told me that when I brought him up. But with Fleury, I mean, he is just playing out of his mind this year, and I think I think Vegas prevails from here. And I guess I'm kind of going with the heart of this is just an insane story. You would know this better than me, but I believe Vegas is the first expansion team ever to make it this far. I believe there's been one other who made it to the playoffs, but ever to make it this far.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anaheim, the Anaheim Ducks, they lost in the first round, I believe, of the playoffs in their inaugural year. But no, I agree. And the thing is, with this Vegas team is coming into the season, I thought that they'd be an 80 to 85 point team. You know, borderline playoffs. They wouldn't get in. They'd be 11th or 12th in the West. But man, I tell you, you look at that roster and what they built. Should we really be surprised? I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury has been a 30-win goalie every year. Yeah, every year of his career. You bring him in to be your number one. You have James Neal, David Perron, both perennial goal scorers in the NHL. Jonathan Marchessault, who's had an unbelievable Western Conference Final so far. He's got 4 goals. He's a former 30-goal scorer. And the thing with Jonathan Marchessault is he never got the respect that he deserved is because he's small. That's the only reason. And that top line, William Karlsson, Wild Bill, 42 goals this year when his former career high was 9. But he's young. He was bound to have a breakout year, nothing like this. But that team is just unbelievable. And like you said, Marc-Andre Fleury at 33 years old is playing the best hockey of his career. Yeah, it's unbelievable. He's 9-3 in the playoffs. He's got a save percentage of .950 and has only given up a goal and a half a game. Should start calling him Marc Con-Dre Fleury. Conn Smythe coming up.
Yes, that's good.
He's unbelievable. And on Wednesday night, a series of saves made on Mark Scheifele, who's got 11 road goals in the playoffs this year. And, you know, he tickled Blake Wheeler's ear and stuff like that. He's feeling it. He's right now, there's nobody playing hockey like Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, again, I think we both agree with, you know, the team coming out of the West is the favorite. So, Jake, who do you have in this series, though?
I picked Winnipeg coming in. I still think Winnipeg finishes it. But the thing that worries me with the Winnipeg Jets is that they've lost 3 of their last 4 on home ice, and that's supposed to be their go-to. Yeah. You know, you have the Winnipeg whiteout. They've only lost 3 games on home ice all year, and they've lost 3 of their last 4. That's a little bit of a concern. And plus, I mean, how can you really pick against this Vegas team right now the way that they're playing? But I have to go with I don't change my predictions. I still have Winnipeg in 7.
Great. Well, so you heard it here, right here on the Cheap Seats with Jake and myself. When we come back here, we are going to be we've been having a lot of fun here with drafts of just stupid things on the Friday show. So Jake is going to join in on the fun. We'll be drafting the best sports cities in America. And I'll give you a clue. Tampa Bay, Winnipeg, and Vegas are not part of the list. So if you're listening from those cities, I'm sorry in advance. But when we come back, we will be drafting the best sports cities in America.
Loving this. I'm having a blast, Matt. Thanks.
Oh, no problem. So I'm excited about this next one. We were talking about this off air with the best sports cities. We kind of did this as a joke, and Christian Heimel, who is a host along with Jonathan on Mondays, and then you have Max and Jeff on Wednesdays, and then Jake and myself on Fridays. But Christian, we were joking about this, and because we were saying, well, you know, Pittsburgh, we'll talk about how Pittsburgh's the best sports town in America. And he said, well, you should do a draft. So we said, okay, great. So we came up with 10 cities. I will give you the list of cities here. It is Boston, New York, L.A., Chicago, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Dallas, Atlanta, the Bay Area. So Jake and I kind of just put the Bay Area, so Oakland, San Francisco kind of together, and then Denver. If you notice, Pittsburgh is not on there because Jake and I both soundly agree that Pittsburgh is number one. So we decided let's not even put Pittsburgh on there. We're kind of joking, but we're kind of serious. But we did decide to leave Pittsburgh off the list for obvious reasons. So what we're going to do, Jake, I will let you go first because this is your maiden voyage. So you can lead us off with your number one overall pick in the best sports cities.
Okay, with the first overall pick in the 2018 Cheap Seats Best Sports City Draft, Jake Holmes selects Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. I think Boston, you just can't go wrong there. I mean, you just have some amazing franchises. You have history just out the wazoo, and in Boston, I got to get, they have one of the best fan bases, I think, in all sports. Now, New York fans won't agree with me on that, obviously, but so great pick there with Boston. Number two, or my overall pick for the second overall pick is I got to go New York. I think Boston and New York are just so far above these other cities. With the Yankees and I won't even mention the Mets. We'll just say the Yankees. So.
No, I agree. And not to mention the Giants with several Super Bowls.
Yes, yeah.
And two of them was over Tom Brady, who almost seemed to be unbeatable up until this year. But that team, of course, we won't go into that. It's a topic for another day. But that team wasn't nearly as good as those of yore.
Yeah, everybody trashes on Eli Manning, and then he's the only one who can seems to be able to beat Tom Brady's team in Super Bowls, though.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'll tell you, that team's going to be nice this year too. The Giants are going to be really nice this year. A lot of injuries last year. You bring in the running back that they've been waiting for since Tiki Barber. So. Yeah, I'm excited about the Giants.
I know, Christian and Jonathan were talking a little bit about this on Monday. I believe Christian is actually a huge Giants fan, and they were joking of him being a homer, but I mean, I agree with you. I mean, you bring in Saquon Barkley, and you bring in two new offensive linemen to protect Eli Manning. I agree with you. I think they're gonna be a dark horse this year.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, like you said, I was just going to touch on the two offensive linemen that they drafted very early. That's going to be a really nice team.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have Jake takes Boston, I take New York. Jake, your number two pick.
My number two, I am going to pick Chicago, Illinois.
That's who I was going to take.
I picked Chicago, of course. LeBron fans will come at me for this, but 6 championships in 8 years during my most impressionable years, the 90s, with Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time, and not to mention best defense of all time as well, the '85 Bears. It's a unit that will never be touched. The '85 Bears. So, not to mention, of course, the Cubs and the White Sox, and we bring in fan interaction to this too. I've never seen anything like when the Cubs won the World Series after 108 years.
Yeah,
never seen anything like.
Yeah, that was impressive. Following the Pirates, always being part of the Central. I'll be honest, when I was watching that, I'm like, good for you, good, one of those things. But
I agree.
Yeah.
I've grown up with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and it's like, I'm supposed to hate this. I'm supposed to hate the Cubs. I shouldn't at the time. I was supposed to hate Jake Arrieta, but it was nice to see. It was nice to see. It was good for those fans, and you heard like stories of 102-year-old. Women that have been waiting for the Cubs to win the World Series their entire life.
Yeah. So all right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll take my backup and take Los Angeles. I think that. I mean, Los Angeles is kind of just like the, New York of the West, no duh. But I mean, they have a lot of success there. Obviously, with the Lakers, they have like 72 NBA championships, and but LA with the fan base and with the teams and their success, I feel like LA is just a natural second pick for me.
Yeah, good point. And they have a ton of teams to pick from, even like from a history standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many teams that have come and gone. Yeah, great pick, Matt. Great pick.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so we have Boston, Chicago for Jake, New York, LA for myself, and Jake with his third pick.
All right, my third pick. I'm gonna give you a little bit of surprise. I'm gonna say the Bay Area of California. Okay. Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland. There's nothing like, of course, one of the best atmospheres in all the sports is the Black Hole in Oakland. Unfortunately, in a couple years, that won't exist. But yeah, you bring in the 49ers with 5 Super Bowls, the Montana Rice connection. Of course, you also have, Steve Young. And the 49ers are looking towards the future. They've got some really good young players coming over there. Plus, they have maybe the quarterback of their future in Jimmy Garoppolo. 49ers are also a national network. There are 49er fans everywhere.
Oh, yeah, everywhere.
Yeah. And also, with what the Golden State Warriors are doing, probably going to win 3 of the last 4, NBA finals, of course, if everything goes accordingly. But yeah, and another thing too that I think is underrated as something it's not cool, but it's unique is the amount of earthquakes that happen during Giants games. It's unique. So that's my philosophy on the Bay Area.
Good. Yeah, that's a surprise pick, but I like that. I'm going to go with, I think this one might surprise you as well. I am going with Atlanta with my third pick. And the reason why I have a little, I don't know what you want to call it, but the Braves, I know Atlanta, I don't think they've won a championship in that city for I don't even know how many years, but the Braves just have something special. As much as I hate you have the early 90s when they were just, lights out. And you have those fans now with families. You have them growing up. They're having kids of their own. Atlanta Braves has such a huge following, even with this year, they are getting back into where they were in the early 90s. They are impressive this year, and I think that their fan base has followed them through these kind of dark years. And so you have the Falcons, who have really been relevant for years. They just can never, get to that next step and win that Super Bowl. So I'm going to go with Atlanta here with my third pick.
Yeah, I was going to pick them. I was going to pick them at my 4 if you didn't. But no, I like the pick. I mean, the Braves, like you said, in the 90s, how many straight NL East crowns did they win? It's just unbelievable. Greg Maddux, Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones. They had Gary Sheffield for a while. It's a really nice. It was one of my favorite teams. One of my favorite eras of teams ever was those Braves in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, also a good pick too. I'll appeal to the soccer fans there too. Yeah. What Atlanta has done with the Atlanta United, that is such a unique fan base. I mean, they've only been in the MLS for like 2 years, but they're selling out every game, and it's not a small stadium that they're playing in. But yeah, I appreciate the love of soccer and and how that Atlanta market has really kind of started to catapult the Major League Soccer.
Baxter might drive all the way to Pittsburgh to give you a hug because you just gave some love to soccer.
He's a soccer guy.
Huge soccer fan. Yeah. He is always bringing soccer up, and I'm always over here wondering what he's talking about. So continuing here, we have a few teams left, or a few cities left. We have Philadelphia, DC, and Denver. Or Dallas and Denver, excuse me. So, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go DC on this next one. Washington DC. I think just alone. I mean, they've had successful teams there. We have the Capitals in the Final Four of the NHL right now, and DC has always brought teams, and I mean it's the nation's capital, so I feel like you gotta put that into play as well.
Yeah, I mean 3 Super Bowls with the Redskins, and I mean the Nationals. Of course, the Nationals almost are kind of like the Cincinnati Bengals of Major League Baseball. They're good during the regular season, can't ever get over the hump there in the playoffs. But no, I like the pick. I was going to pick DC as well. Just based on what they're doing and the way that that fan base has really kind of come and support the Washington Capitals despite 20 years of playoff failure. It's really something special what's going on down there.
It is, yeah. So let me see here. You have Boston, Chicago, and Bay Area, correct?
Yeah, Chicago, Boston, Bay Area. You have New York, LA, Atlanta, and the District of Columbia.
How did I get 4 picks when you went first? I just realized.
I think we got taught. It's okay.
It's all right. All right.
Okay. We made a trade in the 4th round. I traded Martavis Bryant.
Yeah, that was great.
Sorry, that would be the 3rd round. But yeah. So my 4th pick, I'm going to pick Denver, Colorado. Rockies. Say what you want about them. I mean, they've won a World Series. Within the last. Within the decade. But really, where it comes in is the Broncos and the Colorado Avalanche. Denver Nuggets, whatever too. But the Colorado Avalanche, they had Joe Sakic, the Dominic Hasek teams. They were special, in the late 90s, early 2000s. And Colorado Avalanche games still bring in so many people. Yeah. And I watched the reaction. They had their closing out game. Winner goes to the playoffs this year against the St. Louis Blues.
Oh yeah, that was.
Game 82 of the regular season was the extra playoff game. It was unbelievable how they, Nate McKinnon scored the clinching, the dagger late. It was unbelievable, the fan reaction. And they beat the Nashville Predators twice. And I expected that to be a sweep. They beat them twice, and both of those games were on home ice. So Colorado, and then, of course, you have the Elways, the Peyton Mannings with all the Super Bowls with the Broncos. Denver, Colorado, number 4 pick.
That's a great pick. Yeah. So we are down to Philadelphia and Dallas. I think I don't even know. Both of them, I got to give it to them. They have great cities. I guess if I'm really being unbiased, I got to go with Philadelphia here. I'm not going to explain anything. I'll just say Philadelphia, and I don't want to go into details. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what fans are eating over there, as far as, whenever they win. But yeah, I mean, the Sixers are coming along. The process is just about complete, Eagles coming off the Super Bowl. I mean, I think you have to pick them, with that pick there.
Yeah.
I won't say much either because I'm not overly fond of the city, but yeah. So I mean that leaves me with Dallas. You got to go with the Cowboys. The Mavericks have won a championship within the decade. So in 2010. Speaking of 2010, what a time to be alive. The Mavericks won the NBA Finals. 2010, Corey Perry was the Hart Trophy winner in the NHL. It was just like Derrick Rose was NBA MVP. It was just a weird time to be alive. But yeah, Dallas, Cuban's also a Pittsburgh guy from like Upper St. Clair area. So yeah, that's going to be my pick. Cuban does it.
Yes. All right. So you heard it. I can't talk. You heard it right here on the Cheap Seats. So my team is New York, Philadelphia, LA. Who did I end up picking? Atlanta and who did I have? DC. So Jake wrote these down, so we have them. Our poll question will most likely go around here. Jake, who were your 5?
My 5: Boston, Chicago, Bay Area of California, Denver, and Dallas.
All right, so, and you can just put Pittsburgh below both of us because that's, that's the only reason they weren't on there. But Jake, real quick before we go to the break, being completely unbiased, do you put Pittsburgh in the top 5 of best sports cities in America?
I take the black and gold blinders off, and yeah, I mean, of course, you're from here as well. I mean,
yes,
we know each other through church softball, but yeah, I mean, I've lived here for 6 years. Family's been down here my whole life, so I mean, I do have that background. But there's no place in this world that you'll ever go where you can just talk sports with anyone.
Yeah.
And it's like hockey right now, I mean, is the 4th or 5th of the sports that are in popularity in this country. But man, you just go everywhere and you go to the grocery store in June and you're going to see at least 3 Stiller jerseys.
Yeah.
Like it's nowhere else in the world are you going to find that.
Yeah, and the fact that you said Stillers is making me so happy because I have not heard someone say it like that since we moved to Wisconsin in October. So, and I agree with you. I really do think, being from there is different, but I think in the list I was looking at compiling this, Pittsburgh was in the top 5 in every one. So it's from a non-biased opinions as well. So when we come back here, we are going to switch it over to baseball and talk a little bit about the crazy National League Central, as well as just touch on a few more things. And we will be back here. Hope you stay with us. Welcome back to the Cheap Seats. We're having some fun today here with Jake, with again your maiden voyage here in the Cheap Seats. We started this broadcast in the dead of winter when it was nice and cold, but the weather's nice up here now in the Cheap Seats. So, Jake, we're gonna go into baseball here and talk about, especially focus on the National League Central, where if you take out the Cincinnati Reds, top to bottom, they are separated by 2 games right now. It's been like this for most of the year. It has just been a division. I feel like every single day I look at it from the games before, and they've switched positions between the Pittsburgh Pirates, Milwaukee Brewers, St. Louis Cardinals, and Chicago Cubs. Now, Pittsburgh is the hot team right now in this division. They're 8-2 in their last 10, winning 2 straight. They're at 25-17, and Milwaukee Brewers are technically tied with them games back, but Pittsburgh is ahead on win percentage. So, Jake, I mean, what do you think about this division? I don't think anybody saw this. I don't think anybody saw this division being this close. Do you think it's going to stay this way, or do you think, let's be honest, the Pirates being the team most likely to kind of start slipping back?
Yeah, I actually wanted to get your opinion too on what you thought. What you thought of the Pirates, if they were for real or not. I'm still not sold on them.
Yeah,
but I'm still not sold. I just think, they just took 2 from the 10-win White Sox.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not in. They're coming off a really good spring. Bats are coming out, but yeah, I mean. The Cubs are 2 games back at 22-18, lost just about 4 games, under 500 or over 500.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean the Cubs, I mean they're still the most talented team in that division with the Brewers. The Brewers went out in the offseason and brought in like Christian Yelich. They brought in some big names. They spent the money.
Yeah.
So I mean, those 2 are still the teams to beat at the top of that division, in my opinion. But the Cardinals are weird. I just don't think the Cardinals have. I don't think the Cardinals have the talent. I just don't think the Cardinals are that good. I mean, if it wasn't for some guy named Miles McCallis or whatever going 5-0 with a 2.50 ERA, they would be in a lot of trouble because their pitching staff isn't doing it. Carlos Martinez is hurt. So it's definitely interesting. And you're right, nobody saw this coming with the Pirates starting out such a so good. I mean, the Pirates are playing really good baseball right now.
Yeah, the Pirates are such a streaky team this year. I think they've had a couple 4 or 5 game losing streaks, a couple 5 game winning streaks. They just continue their run production is just blowing my mind. They've scored 211 runs this year. We're about a quarter of the way through the season. Looking through the other teams, the only other team in the NL that has scored more than them is the Atlanta Braves at 225. I'm looking at their scores. I don't get all their games out here, but they're scoring 6, 7, 8 runs a night. Corey Dickerson's just what he's been doing in place of McCutchen, which, by the way, I did not cry Friday night, Jake, when McCutchen came back to Pittsburgh. Just so you know, let's get that straight. There was no tears. But I mean, Milwaukee, we saw that coming. We saw Milwaukee coming. St. Louis, Chicago. I think a lot of us forget last year at the All-Star break, I believe they had a losing record at the All-Star break. I could be wrong with that. But
yeah, you're right.
They were a team that people expected to come out and just destroy and really walk away with that Central, and they did after the All-Star break. So they are a team that really scares me. That they're only 2 games out, like you said. They are the best team in this division. And I see them one of these days they're just going to click and just going to, I think, just start running. I don't know if St. Louis and Pittsburgh's going to be able to really keep up with Milwaukee and Chicago. But
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, a quarter of the way through, the further we get into this, the more I'm like, oh, okay, I could see this happening, but it's a long season with baseball, and I don't think the thing that worries me about the Pirates is their rotation. I still think that's just very weak. I know Kingham, just had just an amazing outing his first time out, and obviously, again, their run production has been amazing. So let's just real quick touch on the American League East. We got 2. We were just talking about New York and Boston. Each of us have them as our number 1 picks in the best sports cities. New York, I mean, everybody knew they were just going to come out and score runs, just insane amount of runs. They've scored 231 runs, but Boston scored 232. This is crazy. I didn't realize this. They each have 166 runs against them too. So 2 very even teams. New York or Boston, I'm sorry, I did not see them coming out. I knew they would be a contender this year. I did not see them coming out playing as well as they are this year.
Yeah, the thing with the Red Sox is their rotation's really nice. The rotation's really nice, starting it out with Sale and Porcello. Mm-hmm. But what really separates them, for me at least, is their outfield.
Yeah,
is their outfield. I mean, Benintendi, Bogart, like those guys, Jackie Bradley, they're a really nice team. They're a really nice team, all around. But with the Yankees, that's gonna be fun to watch come, because that's gonna stay. Those 2 teams are gonna stay at the top of that division. Absolutely. That's gonna be fun watching them duke it out, until October. But the thing with the Yankees is, the middle of their lineup, they have 4 guys already with 10 home runs.
Yeah,
I mean, it's unbelievable what they're doing offensively. But like you said, their starting rotation and even their bullpen to an extent just isn't it's just not fantastic. But yeah, no, I agree. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch down the stretch.
Yeah, and I think everybody, with Stanton, Judge, and Sanchez, everyone like, well, I mean, there's a great chance all 3 of them could hit over 50 home runs this year. 40, 50. And then you got their shortstop. I forget. I don't even know how you say his name, but he has
Didi Gregorius.
Yes, yeah. So he has over 10, and I really have been it's just been impressive to watch them, and now they have Neil Walker, so I mean that makes them even. Just kidding. But yeah, this team, I think we all knew would come out and be just lights out all year, and they have shown that. And going kind of down through the American League, one team that I think is going to just keep doing. I mean, if their pitching continues, Houston Astros have just been their rotation. They have let up 116 runs, by far the least amount of runs given up in the major leagues. And if their rotation continues the way it is, Jake, I really don't know how teams are going to really compete with them, to be honest with you. I just think that I don't see it. You know, they got all five of them right now. I mean, you got Garrett Cole and you got the bottom of the rotation from Garrett Cole down to Charlie Morton, who are all pitching as aces right now.
Yeah, and I mean, even like based on the name, they have 4 aces. You know, I mean, yeah. Verlander, Cole is having the best year of his life.
Yeah,
Garrett Cole has been fantastic. Justin Verlander just threw a complete game shutout.
Yeah,
you're right. And the thing that's wild about that, 116 runs allowed. It's by far the least amount in Major League Baseball, but they have the offensive ability like we saw in the playoffs last year. That's just one of the – I think the Houston Astros, of this year and last, it's one of the best teams assembled, of this generation in all sports. Yeah. They come at you a lot of different ways. And, you have just absolute hit machines with Springer and Altuve. And, you supplement that with a rotation like they do, like you said, Cole to Morton. It's crazy. I agree. In the American League, I don't care how many home runs that Judge, Stanton, Sanchez, and Gregorius hit. You're not going to be able to hit. You're not going to be able to hit the Astros like that.
Yeah. So when we come back here, we are going to just quickly give you our bold predictions for the before the next time we meet. But stay here with Jake and myself. And welcome back to the Cheap Seats. So, Jake, we get back into our last session here of our first show together. Baxter and I love to do bold predictions. So what this is just a prediction, a bold one that you think is going to happen before the next time we meet. So I'll give you mine right off the bat. I am going to say that LeBron James will... Now, this part isn't bold. One of these games coming up this week before we meet, he will have a triple-double, but his points will be 50 or more.
I like that. I like that. The other night he had a triple-double. I think the other night dropped 42 and his team lost by 10.
Yeah,
I like that. I think that he's going to have to score 50 if they even want to win a game, which brings me to my bold prediction, is that for the first time since the Jurassic era, we're going to be talking about the NBA Finals next week without LeBron James in it.
Wow.
I think that Boston is going to finish this thing off in 5 or less.
Great. That's a great prediction. So we will see what happens. Make sure you check the Cheap Seats out on Facebook. You can catch Jake and I on Spreaker, on iTunes podcasts, pretty much anywhere from what I understand where you can get podcasts. And make sure you join us. Come back on Monday for Christian and Jonathan, Wednesday with Jeff and Max, and then again next Friday with Jake and myself. So for Jake Holmes and myself, thank you for listening to the Cheap Seats. As Baxter always did, and I never had anything to say, Jake, you have any closing remarks for us?
No, do you, Matt?
No, I never do. That's why this is weird for me even to say this part. I normally just shut up and let Baxter do his thing. So I hope everybody enjoyed the show this morning. Again, Jake, thanks so much for joining us. I'm excited to see what's in store. And again, we will see you all next week here on Monday with Christian and Jonathan.